You know, it's funny. I have all these ideas about like a novel I read um, while I'm reading it, before I read it, after I read it. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, we're going to turn on the camera and we're going to talk about it. And everything's going to turn out perfect. And then I turn on the camera and my thoughts disappear. They dissolve into nothingness. They dissolve into the camera, where unfortunately they are not recorded. So, and I'm going to, I don't know, I need to play around with like the setting of my mic so that way it picks up everything I want it to pick up, but nothing from the outside and where I am actually coming through enough. But Sula, Sula by Toni Morrison. Um, I'm sure Morrison needs no introduction, but I do want to check when it was published. 1973. That's when the copyright is. In Sula, it is a critique on. In the foreword, she talked about how when she wrote Bluest Eye, the Bluest Eye, it was racialized and or politicized rather. It was politicized because she was an African American writer and a woman at that, and all African American writers were politicized. Their writing was political, whether or not they wanted it to be. And so she wrote Sula for herself, for her community, and how she wanted it to be seen, how she saw it. And it is just, it's beautiful. Her writing is, it's like she will go down as like top 10 best writers humanity has ever produced. She talks about the home and the black family aspects and how the community is both seen by itself, within itself, but how an outsider might see it as well. Um, there's a lot on the family aspect, a lot on mothers, black mothers, what they do for their children, how they survive, how terrible, how tough it is to survive, especially as a single black mother, um, and how that can sort of go awry when the children grow up, and it's shown through the various types of trauma that people are inflicted with and what they suffer through. And it follows Sula and her mother, Hannah, and her grandmother, Eva, and then, and just this community in Medallion, the community of Medallion, up in the hills called the Bottom. And it is just beautiful, just beautiful. I would like to read a couple excerpts if I can. What was taken by outsiders to be slackness, slovenliness, or even generosity was in fact a full recognition of the legitimacy of forces other than good ones. They did not believe doctors could heal. For them, none ever had done so. They did not believe death was accidental. Life might be, but death was deliberate. They did not believe nature was ever askew, only inconvenient. Plague and drought were as natural as springtime. If milk could curdle, God knows robins could fall. The purpose of evil was to survive it, and they determined, without ever knowing they had made up their minds to do it, to survive floods, white people, tuberculosis, famine, and ignorance. They knew anger well, but not despair. and they didn't stone sinners for the same reason they didn't commit suicide. It was beneath them. Her ability to accurately and descriptively just write about the trauma of the black community in the 1920s, in the 1940s, in the 1960s, the 1980s, the 2000s now is amazing. It is like every word is handcrafted to perfection. It is, and you really see, like, I have all these descriptive like reviews that I want to give it, that I want to tell about, and I always forget it as soon as I turn the camera on. And you know, mind you that this was a book written how she wanted to write it, I guess, how she wanted others to perceive it. It was not, she wanted to write a book for the black community, I guess, away from the politicization of the critics and everybody who bought her first book and everybody who viewed African American writers as political, whether or not they wanted to be. And I read this book yesterday, and then I watched the movie American Fiction, which was based on the book by Erasure by Percival Everett, who just published James this year, which won the National Book Award for fiction and was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. And Erasure, or American Fiction, the movie, is satire, is satirical in the way that how African American art is viewed by the predominantly white media. And you see the main character, Monk, he's a literature professor, and he writes, you know, really deep, meaningful novels that reflect across history and mythology, but he's put with African American literature, although that's not what he's writing about, purely because he's black. And so he decides to write this really publicly, like, made for white people book, going over, you know, growing up in the hood, violence, being shot by cops and stuff like that. And I don't know how to comment on it without feeling like a white person looking in on a black community, just as Toni Morrison sort of wrote with Sula. Because I see Erasure, or American Fiction, as the movie, as like this a meta critique, obviously, because it's satirical on like how black media is viewed by the predominantly white public. And I think Percival Everett did an amazing job in that depiction, but you need to be careful to not just see it as like a role reversal of, you know, old money, white family. You need to make sure to go one or two layers deeper and see that that itself is also satirical. I feel like, from my own critical analysis of the movie. So yeah, I don't know. Reading Sula and then watching American Fiction was very interesting, especially as an outsider looking in, you know. I would like to read one more passage. This is about Sula's grandma, Eva, and her experience with her son coming back from the First World War. And coming back broken, as many, many soldiers did. He give me such a time, looked like he didn't even want to be born, but he'd come on out. Boys is hard to bear. You wouldn't know that, but they is. It was such a carrying on to get him born and to keep him alive. Just to keep his little heart beating and his little old lungs cleared and look like when he came back from that war he wanted to get back in. After all that carrying on, just getting him out and keeping him alive, he wanted to crawl back in my womb, and well, I ain't got the room no more, even if he could do it. There wasn't space for him in my womb, and he was crawling back, being helpless and thinking baby thoughts and dreaming baby dreams and messing up his pants again and smiling all the time. I had room enough in my heart, but not in my womb. Not no more. I birthed him once. I couldn't do it again. He was growed. A big old thing. God have mercy. I couldn't birth him twice. I'd be laying here at night and he'd be downstairs in that room, but when I closed my eyes I could see him, 6 feet tall, smiling and crawling up the stairs quiet-like so I wouldn't hear, and opening the door soft so I wouldn't hear, and he'd be creeping to the bed, trying to spread my legs, trying to get back up in my womb. He was a man, girl, and a big old growed-up man. I didn't have that much room. I kept on dreaming it, and I knowed it was true. One night it wouldn't be no dream. It'd be true, and I would have done it. Would have let him if I'd have the room, but a big man can't be a baby all wrapped up inside his mama no more. He'd suffocate. I done everything I could to make him leave me and go on and live and be a man, but he wouldn't, and I had to keep him out, so I just thought of a way he could die like a man, not all scrunched up inside my womb, but like a man. But I held him close first. Real close. Sweet plum. My baby boy. I want to give commentary on this, but you sort of just have to revel in it and just appreciate it for the beautiful art that it is. If you have not read Sula, I highly suggest doing so. I feel like Beloved, The Bluest Eye, and Song of Solomon are really talked about as like her 3 pinnacle works of fiction, but I believe Sula deserves a top spot among those as well. It's just beautiful, her depiction and vision of what the Black community is and how it is seen, how it is viewed, and then pairing it with American fiction is it's a very nice complementary film to watch after it. So I highly recommend doing so, because whether you are part of that community or whether you are an outsider looking in, it gives obviously gives you a wider perspective, but it gives you a tinted perspective, because that's almost what they're going for. So almost, but not quite. So yeah, I don't know. There's that. Video after Christmas should be coming out with lots of books, because I bought lots of books and I'm gonna get lots of books for Christmas, so that'll be fun. We'll do that, and then I'm probably gonna record another video right after this one talking about Tropic of Orange, Karente Yamashita's novel. Came out in 1997, I believe. So yeah, thank you so much. Goodbye.